Okay, so I'm responding to the claim that state and local regulation of SUASs burdens and promising new industry whilst failing to offer any new protection, and SUAS being like basically drones. So the first claim from my opponent was that SUAS regulation is very difficult to enforce. The second claim being regulations are unnecessary. The third being regulations have a very negative economic impact. So first of all, the claim that regulations are more difficult to enforce was based on some claims that the regulations are software-based. However, the software should be able to help like law enforcement locate these drone operators, because majority of them, when they're participating in illegal activities, are hiding behind the fact that they're at a remote location and are more difficult to find. And a report that documents all the drone cases from the NY database shows that, especially when the drones are soliciting in illegal activities, it states the operators as unknown. And another example is, according to the New York Times, the drones are being used to try and help prisoners escape by flying into prisons and dropping off tools such as hacksaws. And if software was provided to help local law enforcement, and in the previous case, the prison guards, it would help to locate the operators and further prevent and deter these from occurring. Another claim was that the varying state and local laws creates confusion. That just simply can't be helped, because the United States was founded on federalism, where the federal government, the state government, and local government are all allowed to have varying laws, such as the FAA regulating from the federal level, the police at a more local level, and so on. And for example, another highly regulated trade would be the purchase of guns. Local and state laws obviously vary on that, and it's just the customer's job to find the laws that pertain to them. And while a majority of the drone reports from the FAA are not near misses, the opponent states evidence that a collision with a commercial airplane will happen and cause harm is only once in every 187 million years. That is a statistic, however, this assumes that collisions are the only way that airplanes would crash. Something such as a drone flying next to a pilot would probably startle him, and pilots are humans, and this could cause the pilots to become distracted and cause a crash, which could cause, obviously, killing hundreds of people. And the second claim was that regulations are already restating existing laws, was similar to a previous point. This is just how the government operates, and it's not only isolated to SUASs. Federal, state, and local laws already restate each other, but they just have different consequences and are enforced by different agencies. Such as the case reported by the New York Times again, that a drone crashed in the White House, that was taken care of by the federal government. And another case that was such as a drone crashing into a car and chipping the paint, that was just handled by local authorities. And another source was that the regulations will have a negative economic impact. The opponent states that there was proof that the drone industry is growing and that more sales would happen within the next 5 to 10 years. However, it doesn't really say any proof stating that the increased regulation would actually decrease the sale of drones. For example, another highly regulated industry is cell phones, which were released in 1973, and since then the FCC has been obviously regulating them, and according to the CTIA Wireless Association and InfoPlease, there's obviously been an increase in cell phone subscribers every year. Furthermore, the current public opinion on SUASs, according to Rasmussen reports, is quite negative, where people would want more regulation as a majority. And obviously, if the public opinion is changed around to become more positive by adding the extra regulation and extra safety, more people will be more willing to purchase the drones because they're perceived as more safe.
All right, well, you labeled the advocate's claims pretty clearly. On the first point on the enforcement issue, it's a little bit confusing. It sounds like you're suggesting that there be a modification of the software in order to overcome this problem. So your real argument here is that there are ways to improve the enforcement. You just need a simple declarative statement that says that. Instead, we get this whole explanation of this identification process. We got some information about a database. We've got examples about prisoners using escape. I'm going, and what's the point of all of this? And the point is that simple claim that says there are software fixes that would repair this. And that's what your claim ought to be on that particular point. So I think you're making the right argument here, but you're hiding it without making the appropriate declarative claim on that issue. And I don't understand why that would be a problem here, because like we talked about from the very beginning, we want it to be clear what inference you're making. I think you make it clear what evidence and what background you've got on the point, but what claim do you want us to believe as a result? That needs to be a lot sharper. On the second point concerning the confusion of the issues, I think you are a little bit clearer. You in essence say redundancy exists in all kinds of laws and we don't have problems with those, so we shouldn't expect any particular problems here. And I thought that that was reasonable, especially when you get to the last point where you've got an example that talks about the drone at the White House or the drone that chipped the paint, that they just get handled at different levels. Now in the middle of this, there's an argument about the safety issue, and that seemed a little bit out of place. I'm not exactly sure where the advocate had it in their argument, and your response to this is really dependent on a very hypothetical circumstance of some pilot being startled by a drone, and so it's not really a crash that's going on here. I think that there may be more recent information that would be useful to you here, or other scenarios. It's not an unreasonable hypothetical, but it seems like that's all you've come up with on that particular point, and it feels a little feeble. I thought that your strongest argument was the third point, where you directly go after the reasoning of the advocate, and you've got a counterexample that suggests that increased regulation does not necessarily mean decreased use of or development of this particular product. That's an assumption that the advocates made, and you, in essence, suggest that the exact opposite is likely to be the case, that public opinion could change, and that in fact in the past that's exactly what happened. We had heavily regulated industries that became more and more popular as we went along, and you had a nice analogy that you drew to the cell phone industry. So I thought that that was pretty effective. All right, thank you.